Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We're about to begin. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chairman and CEO of Sidewalk Labs, Dan Doctoroff.
Good afternoon, and welcome to what in fact is an amazing accomplishment here in New York that I, as Deputy Mayor in the early Bloomberg administration, am really proud to have played a role in, which is the regeneration of the Brooklyn Navy Yard. It is really great to see all of you here and see what's happening in this place. We've turned basically a dump into an incredible asset and engine of New York's revival. I want to talk today, no, not about the Brooklyn Navy Yard, but about what we're all here to talk about, smart cities. A few weeks ago, a so-called expert on smart cities compared smart city technology to sex among teenagers. He said, everybody's talking about it, but no one's doing it. We all know that's not true. Obviously, a lot of people here at Smart Cities NYC are working on smart cities technology, and a lot of the stuff being done is really great. But we have to admit, getting things done in cities is really hard. Everything takes more time than we think. There is no city in the world that does a good job of truly integrating the digital realm into the physical environment. Accelerating that integration is our mission at Sidewalk Labs. And I would like to tell you how Sidewalk is hoping to usher in a new era of smart cities that leads, most importantly, to a higher quality of life for people in cities around the world. It's been almost 2 years since Larry Page and I launched Sidewalk Labs. We shared a view that the integration of digital technologies into physical places would help bring about a revolution in urban life. These are the things like ubiquitous connectivity, social networking, sensing, machine learning and artificial intelligence, and new design and fabrication technologies. We believe, as I'm sure many of you do, that their impact will be as profound as the 3 previous technology revolutions that have defined the modern city: the steam engine, the electric grid, and the automobile. Now, there can be no doubt that the struggles cities are facing are only intensifying. In the US, 100-year-old infrastructure is crumbling. Commutes are getting harder and longer. You may have noticed this as you tried to get to here through Penn Station. Rents are rising faster than wages, so that even in successful cities like New York, people feel like their quality of life is eroding. Public's confidence in government's ability to relieve these problems has reached an all-time low. Just this past weekend, the New York Times published a piece on the MTA's aging infrastructure with equipment from the 1930s. All of these trends are fueling the divisive politics that we're experiencing in the United States and around the Western world. But I'm an optimist. I am an optimist toward the future of cities. When we established Sidewalk Labs, Google and I, we didn't think that the answers to the big urban problems would be obvious or easy. Cities are big, complex, messy places. Urbanists and technologists speak completely different languages. Even in simpler eras, those 3 previous revolutions I mentioned took over a generation to be fully implemented. And all of these hurdles help to explain why the venture capital community has invested relatively little money in urban technology. Larry and I believed that cities don't have time to wait. Looking at history and those 3 previous revolutions I mentioned, one can make the argument that the greatest periods of economic growth and productivity have occurred when we have integrated innovation into the physical environment, especially in cities. So our mission at Sidewalk Labs is to accelerate the process of urban innovation, and over the past 2 years, we've begun doing just that. Now, we started by conducting a detailed thought experiment. What would a city look like if you started from scratch in the internet era? If you built a city, as we like to say, from the internet up? What I mean by that is a place where ubiquitous connectivity is truly built into the foundation of the city, and where people use the data that's generated to enhance quality of life while still allowing people to retain privacy and control over their personal information. Over the past 2 years, our team convened some of the world's leading experts across every aspect of urban life. We studied every current or prior effort to integrate technology into new cities or urban districts. We also explored a wide array of innovations that might be possible over the next 5 to 10 years and looked at what the benefits they could bring to every dimension of quality of life. The fundamental thing that we took away from this thought experiment is that you can never truly plan a city. Instead, you can lay the foundations and let people create on top of it. In that sense, our approach to building a city from the internet up is to view the place as a platform. That means creating the digital and physical conditions for people to innovate on top of it and to address urban challenges far more rapidly than cities can today. But we took inspiration from the other great platforms, like the Manhattan Street Grid, which changes its function with every new mobility service that emerges on top of it. Or like the web, which thanks to open, flexible foundations, has enabled and inspired digital collaborations from around the world. When you look at the city as a platform, you begin to see the powerful ways that innovations can combine to transform cities and improve quality of life. It's never about the innovation itself. It's about quality of life. It's about cost of living. It's about convenience. It's about equity. It's about the environment. It's about health. It's about opportunity. It's not about the technology. So take just one example, self-driving vehicles. We focused on the user and how shared electric self-driving vehicles could change their lives. And we did detailed estimates of the cost reduction to the average resident when self-driving mobility as a service was offered. We examined the impact on public space from the elimination of parking and separated roadways. More parks, pedestrian paths, and bike lanes mean more active lifestyles and potentially significant healthcare savings over time. Safer streets mean busy parents can feel confident that their children will be able to walk home from school alone. Better access to open space and less need for on-site storage as a result of cheap autonomous delivery means some residents won't need as much living space, which will reduce housing cost. That's just one example and just a few of the implications of one thread that you pull on. We believe that if you reimagine a city from the internet up, you get a place that gives people more of what we love about cities with less about what we don't. You get a city that is more inclusive and affordable, a place that's adaptable, constantly evolving with changing demands, technologies, and taste, a place that is prioritized for our needs and desires, a place that's shareable in a million new ways, a place that's more transparent with greater trust among neighbors and greater faith in government, a place that functions like a city but feels like a city but functions like a community. In short, you get a place where those virtues, which great cities like New York strive to provide, are the norm and not the exception. Now, the challenge with viewing a city as a platform is that you need a place large enough, to test out coordinated urban innovation at scale. That's because ultimately the future of cities lies in the way these urban experiences fit together and improve quality of life for everyone living, working, and growing up in cities around the world. And yet, there is not a single city today that can stand as a model or even close for our urban future. Right now, Sidewalk is looking into developing a large-scale district that can serve as a living laboratory for urban innovation. We're having conversations with city leaders. We've fielded inquiries from communities around the world in exploring such a partnership. We might even hold a competition similar to the US DOT Smart City Challenge to motivate broader participation among mayors and local leaders. In the meantime, we've undertaken feasibility studies to look at how various coordinated solutions could impact quality of life. In fact, we've modeled the impact of a community deploying a wide range of innovations on an integrated basis across a large-scale district in real-world conditions. We found that applying urban innovations at scale could reduce cost of living by 14% compared to surrounding metro areas. 14%. For an average family in America that makes $50,000 to $60,000, that's the difference between living on the edge and enjoying some degree of comfort and a feeling of safety. We believe you can get everyone within a short walk of a park. We think we could cut greenhouse gas emissions by 2/3, making that place the most sustainable of any city in the world. We think we could save each resident an hour of time every day. The local benefits to people and businesses would be enormous. But a large-scale district like this, which you can view as a model, also holds the great potential to serve as a model for other cities to follow. We all know, all of us who've ever worked in a city or engaged with the city know that when cities see other places do interesting things, they're far more likely to try them. I saw that firsthand here in New York when we saved the High Line. Within a year after the first segment of the High Line opening, there were 36 High Lines under development around the world. In other words, our hope is that the urban innovations that emerge from our living laboratory would get copied in part, not probably in whole, in existing cities around the world and help to improve quality of life there too. Now, what are these urban experiences that we hope to create? We believe that there are 6 or 7 core urban experiences if you reimagine the city as a platform for urban innovation and build it from the internet up. First, real estate that is more usable, more efficient, and more affordable. Finding an affordable place to live, work, or do business is the most challenging and expensive aspect of living in a city. That's in large part because most real estate and most land use and code policies don't easily adapt to changing needs. New digital and design capabilities can help us to address the challenges of real estate and housing affordability in new ways. Advanced manufacturing enables new explorations into modular housing that can help reduce the cost of construction by up to 30%, according to some estimates. Sidewalk's Build Lab is looking into some of these developments with prefabricated modular now. Maybe more importantly, sensors that track structural and other performance characteristics can help cities test outcome-based building codes that can protect public safety while enabling more dynamic buildings and more dynamic communities. That might, for example, make it easier to turn manufacturing space into affordable housing, or have manufacturing space right next to affordable housing. If you look at the way a place like Soho with its great lofts evolved over 100 years, why can't that happen in a matter of years? As I mentioned earlier, robotic delivery can allow the off-site storage of items, which means families can live more comfortably, or at least as comfortably, in apartments and homes with less storage space, or access to other services that they might ordinarily do in the home, increasing efficiency and affordability. These advances can lower the cost of housing dramatically for families and make buildings more flexible so that real estate can adapt quickly to changing market demands. Second core experience, a mobility system that is more convenient than the private automobile. We all know that urban transportation is defined by an over-reliance on private cars that cost families thousands of dollars a year in car ownership, creates congestion for drivers and safety hazards on our streets for pedestrians and cyclists, and leads to greater emissions and sprawl. Public transit is essential to reducing this car reliance, but we know, certainly here in New York, that there are often big limitations on transit funding. Through a combination of self-driving vehicles, new forms of shareable public transport, and technology that allows us to optimize a complex network, we can develop a transportation system that prioritizes walking, biking, and shared rides, and dynamically allocates its roadways to improve congestion. When you combine these advances, you get a mobility system, we believe, that's every bit as convenient as a private car while saving families thousands of dollars a year on car ownership. The car is the second biggest expenditure for a family. On average in America, a car costs a family $9,000 to $10,000 a year. We believe that can be cut in half. Third experience, a new standard of sustainability. Cities are inherently resource efficient due to their compactness, but they are unable to achieve zero environmental impact because of their concentration of waste in all forms: solid waste, wasted energy, and wastewater. Reducing emissions from building energy in particular is an enormous challenge for cities. Several digital and design innovations can help us rethink energy, waste, and water use in cities. One of the most promising advances that Sidewalk is exploring is a thermal exchange system that makes it possible to capture and repurpose wasted heat and cool in buildings, which could reduce total energy consumption by up to 80% over the course of a year, and potentially eliminate reliance on fossil fuels. You can complement this system by implementing passive house building standards to manage thermal loads in buildings. Cornell Tech here, just up the river, is working on the world's tallest passive house building right now. It is projected to achieve a 73% reduction in overall energy consumption compared to similar buildings in New York City. And Sidewalk's head of development led the bid that brought the campus to the city. We're also looking into sensor-enabled garbage chutes that make recycling and composting as easy in multifamily buildings as it is in single-family homes, and can dramatically reduce landfill waste. Not sexy, but makes a difference. And we've investigated the idea of a gray water pipe system that can help residents of multifamily buildings reuse non-potable water. With these advances, we can create new standards of environmental sustainability while maintaining reasonable costs. The fourth urban experience that these technologies will enable is a public realm that is the city's living room or backyard. I think we would all agree that in many ways, the public realm is the experience that defines the city. New York City and every other great city are lived in its streets, its parks, and in the spaces that we share. But that space is so often limited by weather, by vehicles and traffic, and poor maintenance. How can technology improve our public spaces? For starters, we can implement some of the mobility technologies earlier to help give street space back to pedestrians and cyclists. In the average American city, 30% or more of our land is dedicated to parking or separated roadways. Self-driving vehicles will make our streets safer and will dramatically reduce the amount of space dedicated to parking, which leaves more room for plazas and parks. We believe in this city built from the internet up, we can double the amount of public space per capita. Other new capabilities help us make outdoor space more usable more often. Durable plastics like ETFE enable new approaches to weather mitigation, such as retractable canopies and covered bike lanes that can draw people outdoors in all season. Sidewalk is also having conversations with park managers about using sensor arrays to help monitor air quality, asset conditions, and usage in public spaces. This makes it easier for cities and park managers to more quickly respond to needs such as fixing a broken bench and emptying an overflowing trash bin. This system can also enable reservable spaces for things like pop-ups, cafes. All of this enables us to create a public realm that's usable as often as possible, comfortable, safe, and personalizable. Fifth, a close-knit community that uses data to improve city services. Social cohesion and civic engagement are an ongoing challenge in cities. But new data and digital tools can help us to understand community well-being, solicit public feedback, and facilitate local cooperation. The first step to a stronger community is making it a connected community. In New York City, for example, there are 3 million people out of 8.5 million who lack access to broadband. Access to broadband should be as much as a universal right as electricity and water. That's why Sidewalk's portfolio company Intersection is building Link NYC, the world's largest free public Wi-Fi network. As many of you who have used it by now know, Link NYC offers free gigabit Wi-Fi and other services like access to social services, 311, 911 phone calls, free phone calls, and fast charging. We're now seeing 30 or 40,000 people a week sign up for the service, and we're now going to be taking it to London first, among other cities. But ubiquitous connectivity is the first step toward building a city from the internet up. It also enables community tools that can help people form neighborhood groups, crowdsource local needs, create peer-to-peer marketplaces, and provide feedback on local planning. Sidewalk's Model Lab is developing new modeling tools that can help democratize the planning process by making it more approachable to a wider audience. Our Manage Lab is exploring ways to create the next generation of 311 and help local government deliver more responsive city services. Better data connectivity can also improve the delivery of traditional social services such as healthcare. In fact, our Care Lab is developing digital tools to integrate primary care and social services for low-income city residents. Together, these data-driven advances can lead to healthier communities and stronger civic engagement. Why else build a district? Clearly, the integration of all of these applications and technologies can demonstrate the way forward. But when you build a platform, we believe that what you will see in this place is an aggregation of companies who have an interest in urban innovation. Our expectation is that we will be able to build a cluster around innovation, which then accelerates even more the process of innovation in cities, creating a positive feedback loop that helps cities address their biggest challenges. We hope engineers and entrepreneurs will build new concepts and start new companies, often in partnership with local institutions. As some of these ideas succeed and others will copy them, which will attract yet more engineers and entrepreneurs to the place, pulling more talent into the system and generating more service jobs to support the cluster. Eventually, we believe you have a fully diversified economic engine like you see here in New York in finance or professional services or media, or, again, around urban innovation. Again, the goal of doing this is not to develop new technology for technology's sake. The end goal is to improve quality of life in cities. If we can't do that, if all we do is introduce a set of interesting, exciting, potential technologies, then we will have failed regardless of how imaginative the ideas are. A city from the internet up must reduce cost of living, improve the environment, make transportation more convenient and less expensive, make housing more affordable, and create new opportunities. Otherwise, why build it? Now, I'm sure many of you are thinking this is a crazy idea. Building a city new, the most innovative urban district in the world, something at scale that can actually have this sort of catalytic impact among cities around the world. We don't think it's crazy at all. People thought it was crazy when Google decided to collect all the world's information. Thought it was crazy to think about the concept of a self-driving car. Having a laboratory, having a model at scale that can demonstrate the integrated impact of these advances that isn't planned, that enables people to create on top of it, may be one of the single most important things that we can do to accelerate growth and productivity. I'll say it again. Once one city tries something new and different, other cities rush to follow. That's the beauty and power of local innovation, and it's never been more important than right now. Thank you very much.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, those of you going to the presentation upstairs, please exit to your left.